So today I'm going to talk about disability insurance and specifically injury-only disability insurance. And this is very, very important for self-employed blue-collar workers. So someone who's in the construction trade, plumber, carpenter, drywaller, landscaper, that kind of stuff. Most of these people are working with their bodies, their hands, and an injury can devastate them. And the most important part of our lives in the Western civilization is bringing home a paycheck. And if you cannot bring home a paycheck and you cannot pay your bills, where does the money come from? And if you get injured and you stop working, you need disability insurance, and especially injury-only disability insurance. And I'll tell you a story about that. So I have a client who was a property manager for a company, and his boss wanted him to buy some injury-only disability insurance, and he didn't want to do it. He was, in his mind, he was a Superman. He was the kind of guy that went out into the Algonquin Park, which is a park near here in Ottawa. It's a wilderness, and he was living on his own for weeks, canoeing, camping, the whole works. And he said to me, "I don't need disability insurance. I'm never going to get injured. Why would I need it?" But his boss forced him to buy it, and so he did. And about 6 months later, he was getting a house built, and he was, I guess you'd call him a general contractor with a house. So he had hired people to do it. He had hired carpenters and roofers and things like that. But he was nosy, and he wanted to find out how the roof was doing. So he climbed up the ladder, and he was almost at the top of the roof. So I don't know how many feet above the ground that is. And then he realized that the ladder wasn't secured to the house, and it started to come away from the house, and he fell off the ladder and he twisted his leg sideways. His right leg was shattered, and he had to go to the hospital, and he has numerous plates and screws into his leg. And in fact, today, he has to carry a card in his wallet, because if he goes through the metal scanners at the airport, they go crazy because he's got these plates and screws in his leg forever. And he was in terrible shape. And I remember going to see him about 2 weeks after he came out of the hospital. And he was in a wheelchair, and he had all these plates and screws in his leg. And the first thing he said to me was, "Am I ever glad I bought that disability insurance?" Because it paid him $2,000 a month for about a year. And he used that to pay his bills. So the one issue that a lot of self-employed individuals are talking to me now about is that they are forced through the Ontario government to buy WSIB, or if you want to, the old term was workers' comp, because they are now technically covered while they're working. So WSIB will pay you 80% of your income if you get injured at work. But the point here is it's at work. So yes, they do cover you, but it's only while you're working. So if you're injured elsewhere, so if you're injured at home, if you fall down the stairs at home, or if in the wintertime you slip and fall in the driveway, if you're playing pickup hockey and you're injured, WSIB is not going to pay you. So you really need to think about that. If you feel that you've got WSIB, so I don't need disability insurance, it's only partially right, because you're not covered while you're not working. So you need to buy at least injury-only disability for the times when you're not working. And you can buy a product like that. There's a product like that covers everything other than work. So it's designed to kick in when you're off work. And for the guy who would fall down the stairs or play pickup hockey, it's going to pay the $2,000 a month or whatever monthly benefit you buy outside of work. And it's very, very important for you to do that. Those kind of policies are not very expensive. In fact, an injury-only disability period for $2,000 a month is about $50 a month. It's less if you take the wraparound, the one that does not cover the WSIB. It's less because most of the time WSIB is going to cover work, so they don't have to worry about covering you. So there you're looking at maybe $35 a month. So it's not very expensive, but it's something that I think everybody should be concerned about. A lot of people talk about having mortgage insurance and life insurance and stuff like that, but the number one policy that you'd focus on, because Without your income, you've got nothing. The number one policy is disability.
You want to tell us one more story? That one was so good.
Okay, what do we want to talk about now? Okay, I'll tell you another story.
Yeah.
So today I'm going to talk about term insurance, term life insurance. A lot of people seem to think that it's a big waste of money because it's only term and it doesn't pay. But it does pay. Yes, the insurance companies are pricing it because they're gambling you don't die. And they feel most people who buy term insurance policies pay the monthly premium for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, and they don't have to pay out, and that's how they make their money. But they do pay out, and if people do die, and I'll tell you a story of that. I had a client who was actually a good friend of mine, and I used to golf with him all the time. And he was a construction guy, and he had actually, how I met him, he had actually renovated my bathroom in my house. And we got to talking, and he wanted to buy some insurance, and I sold him a $300,000 term 10 life insurance policy. So one spring, I call to see when we want to go play for golf, and his wife answers the phone and tells me that unfortunately he can't because he's in the hospital. He has a stage 4 brain tumor. He's 54 years old, and he passed away. So he had a $300,000 term 10 life insurance policy. And his wife, I went to see his wife afterwards. We filled in the claim forms and stuff like that. And she actually thought the $300,000 was $150,000 each for a total of $300,000, but it actually wasn't. It was $300,000 each. She was so relieved at that. So we got that settled, and they paid out, even though it's a term policy. I shouldn't say even though, because people get that impression that term insurance is not going to pay, but it does. It paid out the $300,000, and it helped her. And in fact, the side story to that was this guy was working for a construction company locally here. I won't mention the name. And he had a group life insurance with that construction company for $74,000, which was his income. And when his boss or the owner of the company found out that he had cancer, he fired him so he didn't have to pay the group insurance, which is terrible. So I found this out, and the company, and I'll mention the company, it's Empire Life, the company that had his group insurance, I let them know what was going on, and to their benefit, even though he was technically fired and not an employee, they still paid it.
That's
good
crazy.
for them.
That's so good.
Good for them.
What a good insurance company.
So with the group insurance and the $300,000 term insurance, his wife was able to keep her house, keep her family together, and invest a lot of that money, and is so thankful that we went through the whole process.